Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our August 23rd City Council meeting. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She's nuts. She is.
Stacy, if you could please call the roll.
Councilman Barry Donovan.
Present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large, Air.
Councilwoman Britton Bosky. Present. Councilman William X. Conlon.
Present.
Councilwoman and Woman Elizabeth Johnston.
Here.
Councilman Mitchell Delgado. Absent. Councilwoman Robin Hamilton.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilman Pete Massaro.
Councilman, 6th District, Peter Massaro, President.
Councilwoman Trinae McGee.
Councilwoman Trinae McGee, 7th District, present.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, absent. Councilman Robert Bruno.
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
And Chairman Ronald Quagliano.
Councilman Ron Quagliani, Council at Large, present. Thank you, Stacy. We now have, before we start our regular council meeting, we have a public hearing. The Public Lands Committee in regards to Section 8-24, referral of abandonment of a city street, a portion of Goodhue Street, and municipal improvements at 28 College Street. I'll turn the public hearing over to the Public Lands Chairman, Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman Quagliani. The time is now 6:58. Committee on Public Lands in session. Present is Councilman Conlon, Councilwoman O'Connor, and myself acting as the chair. Tonight before us the public hearing on the public lands. The Section 8-24 referral of the abandonment of the city street, which is a portion of Goodhue Street, and municipal improvements to 28 College Street. Do we have anybody that would like to speak on that from the public? For the second time, do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak on that? For the third time, do we have anybody that would like to speak on that from the public? Seeing none, public session is closed.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. It's 7 o'clock, so we can start the regular council meeting. Before we begin, I would just like to take a moment to, I see the Chief Perno's in the room, and I want to thank the many people over the past couple of days that spent their time away from their family preparing for Hurricane Henri. Day and night, working very hard. The Emergency Management Director, Joe Soto, and his team, the fire chiefs, the police chief, Public Works Director and his staff, so many others, the mayor, just making sure that the city was prepared. I think I can speak for everybody saying that we're very thankful it took a right turn. But again, I want to thank everybody for taking that time to make sure that West Haven would be safe. Also, if we could take a moment of silence before the meeting for Beth Denton. Beth Denton passed away this past week, and Beth was a longtime school crossing guard for the West Haven Police Department. Thank you. Okay, we'll enter into public input. Again, if I could remind everybody, there's a one-time speaking rule. Please address the council. Obviously, we'll use proper decorum at all times. Please try to keep your comments to city business. And again, employees cannot be discussed in this particular venue without notice to the employee prior. So that being said, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the city council? For a second time, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the city council? For a third time, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the city council? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. I'd like to take a motion entertain a motion to waive the rules this evening to allow to put on a communication from Finance Director Frank Czaplinski for an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $6,747,695 in bonds plus additional financing costs of the city to meet certain 2021, 2022 capital budget appropriations and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for this purpose. The vote here is to allow this to go on to the agenda. Motion by Councilwoman Hosky. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Hamilton. Is there any discussion about putting this on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion passes. That'll be Communication J, and that will be in the Finance Committee. Stacy, you good with that? You have that? Okay, yeah. Yep. Okay, the first order of business is the approval of the minutes of July 26, 2021. Is there a motion to approve? Councilman Cohen, Councilwoman McGee, is there a second? Second, Councilman Conlon. Is there any discussion on the minutes? The only one comment I have is that on the first page, under public comment, George Monahan, it should be Monahan, I believe, not I-Y. So if we could make that correction. That's the only correction that I saw. Does anyone else have any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes are carried. Thank you. Stacy, if you would please pass out tonight's communications.
We have before us communication A from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the reappointment of T. Gregory Malroy Jr. to the South Community Regional Water District, being assigned to the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Chairman Massaro. We have before us communication B from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the appointment of Christy Collins to the West Haven Energy Commission, being assigned to the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Chairman Massaro. We have communication C from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the appointment of Raymond Collins IV to the West Haven Energy Commission, being assigned to Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Chairman Massaro. We have communication D from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to out-of-state motor vehicle registrations, being assigned to Health, Welfare, and Safety Committee, Chairman Bruno. We have before us communication E from the tax collector in regards to overpayment refunds for the month of August 2021, which will be filed with tonight's minutes. We have communication F from the police chief, Joseph Perno, in regards to animal shelter donations being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Hosky. We have communication G from Corporation Council in regards to the sale of Thompson School, being assigned to Public Lands Committee, Chairman Donovan. And we have before us communication H from Corporation Council in regards to the sale of a portion of Front Avenue, parcel number 060-0206-0-0000, being assigned to the Public Lands Committee, Chairman Donovan. We have before us communication I from the grant writer Doug Poulter in regards to the West Haven Police Department DAG grant being assigned to the Health, Welfare, and Safety Committee, Chairman Bruno. And we have the added communication J to the agenda, which is an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $6,747,695 bonds plus additional financing costs of the city to meet certain 2021, 2022 capital budget appropriations and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowing for such purpose, being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Hosky. And that concludes our communications for this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Stacy. We will recess into committee meetings at this point. First committee is the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Hosky.
Thank you, Chairman Fagliani.
The time is 7:10, and the Committee on Finance is in session. Members present are Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilman Massaro, Councilman Cohen. Massa. and myself as acting as chair. We have before us this evening, Communication E from Police Chief Joseph Perno for the animal shelter. I'd like to bring this out favorably. Thank you, Councilman Bruno. Can I have a second? Thank you, Councilman Cohen.
Communication,
It's communication F. F.
Okay.
I'm sorry, thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We also have before us communication J from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi, the ordinance authorizing the issuance of $6,747,695 bond plus additional financing costs. I'd like to bring this out favorably. Thank you,
Motion.
Councilman Hamilton. Have a second. Thank you, Councilman Bruno. Is there any discussion? Councilman Massaro?
Discussion?
I did. I second.
discussion.
Discussion.
Oh, I don't know, Scott.
He was seconding.
I'm a-
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear. I thought she said second.
Councilman Cohen?
Yes, just a question for Frank. Yeah, put my glasses
Frank,
on.
would you like to come to the podium, please?
This is just a quick question, Frank.
Yes.
I just got communication J passed out to us, but when the mayor forwarded the exhibit A to us in terms of
Yes.
the material, I just wanted to just double check. I know it's a minor point, but I was looking at the two columns for capital budget appropriation and total bond authorization.
Yes.
And under mower replacements, for the budget appropriation, $110,000. And when you take that line, it does add up to what we're asking for, the $6.745 million. But on the total bond authorization, it was decreased to $80,000, which would make it $6.717. There was just like an additional.
6.74 is the correct number.
Okay, it is. Okay, so the mower replacement would be $110,000.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I saw that when I did the Excel. Okay, that was all I had, is to make sure what we're voting on.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, just for a point of, just so we all understand, so tonight, the motion to approve is to approve a first reading of the ordinance, and then next meeting, we'll have a public hearing for the public prior to the meeting, and then we'll have a second reading and a vote after that. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The Committee on Finance is closed at 7:12.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Ms. Lee, is Lee supposed to be here? All right, I'm gonna skip you, okay, and then come back, all right? Next committee is the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Councilman Massaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Time is 7:11. This is Personnel and Civil Service. Members of present are Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilwoman McGee, she just stepped out, Councilman O'Connor, Councilman Bruno, and myself as chair. We have before us from Mayor Rossi to appoint Mr. T. Gregory Malloy to the South Central Regional Water District. I'd like to bring this out favorably. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Councilman Hamilton. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so move on that. Next I have here is appointed by Mayor Rossi, Chrissy Collins to the West Haven Energy Commission. She will be filling a person that resigned, I guess, and her term is until 2024. And I'd like to bring this out favorably if, motion to bring it out favorably. Thank you. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Councilman. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so move on that. Also, we have appointment Raymond Collins IV to the West Haven Energy Commission. I'd like to bring this gentleman out favorably for this position. All in favor? Do I hear a second? Any discussion? Keep it up. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. That's it on personnel and civil service at 7:13.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Next committee is the Health, Welfare, and Safety Committee, Councilman Bruno.
Thanks, you left me. You left me.
Mr. Chairman. Time is 7:14. Committee on Health, Welfare, Safety in session. Committee members present are Councilman Donovan, Councilwoman McGee, Councilman Cohen, myself acting as chair. Tonight we have before us communication D from Nancy R. Rossi in regards to out-of-state motor vehicle registration. Communication requires no official action, but I would like to ask Mayor Rossi or Attorney Turnin on this to address the communication, please.
I'm good with it. I can do it.
Yeah, I think everybody can agree, this has been a concern since COVID started, where land sales and other activities have seen a rise anecdotally in out-of-state plates. And so a concern whether or not people are properly, pursuant to state law, registering their cars in West Haven as they're supposed to and paying taxes like they're supposed to and all the proper fees. And so Riley, who you know, intern from UConn Law School, has volunteered in our office to do a few things. One is he's going to get the list of current land sales, and he's going to see if that land sale list matches where people have registered their motor vehicles. He's going to go out personally and take a look at certain properties and see what cars are in the driveway. In addition, we've discussed with the assessor's office, and if we provide the assessor with evidence that a car should have been registered in West Haven, the assessor's office has agreed that they will send out an assessment of taxes letter to let the individual know that we plan to put that vehicle on our tax list, and ask them to register the car before that happens, of course. But most important as to why it comes to you, Riley is going to be a resource, and I think the mayor provided you with contact information for him. If you are out in your communities, if your constituents are informing you of situations where you want a response, you will be able to contact him. He will take notes and be responsive back to you as to his follow-up on those particular individuals who you think need follow-up on. So with that, if there are any questions, Riley's here to answer any questions as well.
Oh, are we still on this committee? Sorry.
Right, so is there any member in the committee that have any questions for Attorney Lee Turner? Go ahead.
I gotta wait for him.
No, that's all right.
The process in which registering your car from out of state, is it the same as if, what does that process look
Yeah,
like?
why don't we just tell him about the statute?
New York license plate.
Sure.
I just don't know what that process looks like for someone.
So they just updated that law in 2021. It was very recently changed. There are a couple of exceptions now that didn't previously exist. You can get temporary registrations if you're moving, which will allow you to have a registration, which makes your plates valid while you're in the process of changing your residence. And then they've also added increased fines and increased detection on cars that are not registered or that fail to meet requirements. The DMV is cracking down on that a little bit, and it gives, this statute gives more power to Connecticut officials to create subcommittees and positions to examine, say, specifically buses, specifically solid waste transportation vehicles, things like that. So there is a lot of, room for increased oversight. I don't know if that answers your question, ma'am, but there's just a couple of new protocols I can go over, that specifically deal with when people are moving in from out of state. Oh, yeah, sorry, there's a 60-day provision. Once you move, you have 60 days essentially to turn it over, or you can be fined. I believe it starts out at $250, but then it continues to rise. You can face a lot of fines for not registering. You do have 60 days for that, and you have to, I believe, register both with the DMV from the state you're leaving as well as the one that you're entering, which should hopefully allow us to sort of narrow down and see if there's anyone that's not registering their vehicles and paying those taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just a question, there's been such an influx in certain areas of people from New York or out of the area of like moving into houses and, some of them, for whatever reason, let's say they're basically contacted by the registrar and it was, 75 days or 90 days out, but they just didn't realize they had to do it, okay? Will the assessor be contacting them with a fine, or will the assessor just be contacting them and saying, hey, listen, you didn't meet the spec and
So,
you have 30, how's that gonna work, I guess, is my question. Oh, okay, Lee.
Yeah, so the police can only
Right,
institute
right.
fines. So we don't have, and even there, if you think about how we enforce blight, we're looking for compliance first, right? We're not looking to penalize people and create additional fines. In addition, you might have individuals who, I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I've actually been hit by 5 uninsured vehicles in my driving history who couldn't pay me. They said they had insurance, they didn't have insurance. And so sometimes people don't have the financial wherewithal to do things. So I think you could make the process hard. So we're really just looking for compliance.
So they'll be given an opportunity to just, just to make sure that they're registered here. So.
correct. You do have the authority to fine them under the law, but it sounds like that might not be beneficial for the city.
Yeah, because there's just people in my district that, call me saying, hey, I want to register to vote, but I haven't changed over. They're relatively new, like they have to change up, they know they have to change over their license and stuff like that. I said, well, it's a good idea to change over your license anyway, because you have to. Plus, when you go to the polls, they're going to really want to see some identification, so they want to make sure that you're in Connecticut unless you have a birth certificate.
Yeah,
or something.
absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Pardon me, miss?
I'd like to open up to the council, go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm just curious, how are you gonna do the research for this? Are you gonna get all the transactions of the houses that are being bought and sold and then research what cars they have? How, are you going door to door? Is it all paperwork?
I'd like to avoid going door to door if at all possible. I did that right out of school and it wasn't fun. Mostly it's going to be transactional. I'm going to look at the different records that we have, that the state has, and compare them. Usually discrepancies will come up right away. Again, that can just sort of be a project I'm always constantly working on as well. There might be some people who sort of slip through the cracks there or some of the red flags don't come up. And I'll have to sort of cross that bridge when I come to it. I don't want to misspeak because this is new to me as well. But there's records from both the DMV, from housing. The clerk's office and the assessors have records as well. So I'll mostly be comparing those. If there's a specific type of person I should avoid, or if there's things like that. Again, it's going to be a learning process for me as well. But I'm happy to hear any concerns if you want me to add parameters to the research.
No, I'm really glad to hear that because as a mom, I was worried about you going door to door. I was going to advise you not to argue with anyone, just to leave the porch and send a letter.
Absolutely, I understand. Thank
Okay.
you. Oh.
You all set?
I am, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So I live in Allentown, and as we know, UNH has a big footprint in Allentown. And
Absolutely.
there's several, people come from all over to go to school. How are we handling that? People coming from out of town and bringing their vehicles.
So that's a good question. Let me answer to the best that I can right now. Presently, any non-residents, we will be able to run if someone comes in from Massachusetts, say to go to UNH, and they're parked there, we should be able to run the plates and see. All right, this is somebody visiting from Massachusetts. which as long as they're not a resident, they are allowed to operate their vehicle on the roads, of course, in any state. So there should be, and eventually I think this is going to be something that continues to improve the longer that this process stays in place. It may get easier to look up things like that. Presently, though, however, I think that would be the main issue, is that if there are people coming from out of state, they're not going to turn up on the searches that I'm doing for people who aren't registered.
Counselor Hamilton, it's a rebuttable presumption as well. So if I say, Counselor Hamilton, you should be registering your cars, and you say, I don't, the legal phraseology is where the cars are garaged the majority of the time. So say 4 nights a week. So, you know, a student might be able to argue, well, it's mom's car and I go home every week, you know, I don't know what they could argue. But that being said, you know, it's harder, the database isn't readily available. That will probably require at least going out and doing some sightseeing to see, but I don't think it's all that complicated. We kind of know some areas where, and you know better than us, some areas where UNH students reside and where there are a lot of cars. We also know when people complain that there's too many UNH cars on the street. So between the two things, I think we'll be able to figure out if someone needs to adhere to the statute and whether or not we have that conversation. But again, we're not going to do it. We're not coming in a punitive way. We're really just trying to exercise fairness. If you have to pay your taxes, they're using the roads, they got to pay their taxes.
Thank you.
Any other, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, so I think one of the best resources that we have to identify people that live in the community but have not registered their vehicles in the community is the neighbors, right? The neighbors in a particular neighborhood, right? They know who comes, who goes, whose car's in the driveway. Is there a mechanism that the public can utilize in order to be able to give information to the city? Is there a number that they could call? I know that, I don't know if you've had conversations with the police department, but I know that there's a line, like, you know, we don't want Riley going out and knocking on doors, but I think there's got to be a partnership between what he does and what the police department does.
Yeah, so, and I mean, the mayor has instructed us, we're going to present this to the council, and then we're going to follow it up with a communication with Mr. Walsh, and hopefully some notification in the voice and so on. Whether we'd actually have a formal ad, I don't know. We'll have to think about that. But certainly, we're going to be communicating through our normal vehicles to communicate.
Right. I think all of our constituents have said to us, you know, about out-of-state plates, and so I think, again, they're the ones that, you know, nobody has better knowledge than the ones that live next door to you or in your neighborhood. So I think the public would be a great resource in helping us kind of fight these out-of-state plates.
Yes, and Riley's young, and he has a learning curve, and he's going to learn what it means when his information is out there to be contacted about things like this. So his information will be there, but we are encouraging you to use it as a resource, and you know, we'll just have to manage it because we want people to feel like there is a response to this. There is something happening. We're not just ignoring it. We're going to be doing something about it. And the main reason to do that is because it's fair. You know, we just have to be fair.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So just to be clear, we're saying that UNH students should register their car even if they're.
If it's where the vehicle is, I believe, housed or where it's garaged for the majority of time. So what exactly the majority is, I don't know. You could say that they drive back up on winter break and summer break, so they spend more time there. That there's no legal precedent at all, at least not in Connecticut, really, for that.
I don't want to jump in, but I believe that the statute has a carve out for students. So I believe that students could if you're in active education, you could bring your car with you. I believe that there's a carve out to that statute.
But does it say that you have to register it here?
No, you don't have to. That's what I'm saying. If you're coming from Massachusetts, you're going to school in Connecticut.
My concern with that is living next door to a whole bunch of UNH students that I adore. What if they're only here for a year and it is their mom's car? Like, it just doesn't. We have lots of neighbors that don't like the fact that kids live there, so I would hate to see it be punitive when.
First of all, you said the key. So it's the mom's car. Where does the mom live? That's gonna be a tough case for me to prove. So now I gotta prove. Understand that when I say where the car is garaged, I have to prove that the car is garaged 4 days a week. And as much as I adore Riley and want him to do a good job, he's not surveilling cars 4 days a week. I mean, so realistically, the way this plays out, and the way it plays out in Massachusetts, which has, you know, a lot of higher ed, and other communities that have it, is, you know, you do what you can, you notice it, but realistically, I have some proof. Sometimes I don't have proof problems because people aren't student, you know, they're kind of boxed in. They live here, whatever, their car's coming home on the commute. But in the end, I gotta prove it, you know, I gotta prove that that car is here a majority of the time, and that's, you know, that's not necessarily gonna be easy to prove. So you're talking about a car that's not in the student's name. So I have no other tie to West Haven than that the car was here. Oh, they were only visiting. The other thing is there's 60 days. So by the time I get into play, so you're talking September, October, so maybe November, now they go home for Thanksgiving. I mean, it doesn't, even if you didn't have the carve out for students, it doesn't really work on a student basis. However, you know, a graduate student in a long-term program who buys a house or, you know, is living in the same residence for 3 years, you know, it might be different. And, you know, obviously anybody with, if you've seen them, diplomatic plates, you know, I'm not even going there, so.
There is a, I don't know if this is relevant, but there is the commissioner is allowed to designate certain plates with identification tags. I have no idea, again, don't let me misspeak, I don't know if that could be used for students, but that is a carve out there, I believe it's in subsection H of the new one, where the commissioner can identify specific vehicles. I think it's mostly meant for government plates and federal things like that, but that is also allowed.
Thank you. Any other questions? Good? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we also have before tonight communication I from Don Colton in regard to West Haven Police Department JAG grant. I would like to ask for a motion to approve and bring this communication out favorably. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Gary. Can I get a second, please? Gary, Chief, thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Time is 7:30, Mr. Chairman. Committee on Health, Welfare, and Safety is closed.
Thank you, Councilman Bruno. Next committee is the Public Lands Committee, Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman Quaglione. Time is 7:31. Committee on Public Lands is now in session. Members present are Councilman Conlon, Councilwoman O'Connor, and myself acting as chair. We have before us tonight communication G, which is the sale of Thompson School. And Lee, might as well stand for all three of them.
All right, so the council in the city has acted on this building in the past. There was an $850,000 bid for 3 schools, the Blake Building, Stiles School, and the Thompson School, back in 2019. That bidder backed out. The council then awarded all 3 schools for development to the Park Lane Group. And that contract was signed right as COVID started. So it put everything in limbo. The Park Lane Group is still interested in developing the buildings, but concedes that in order for the numbers to work, it needs a fully remediated space. That's why we did pivot, and we are pursuing state remediation funds. Part of my request tonight is that once the phase 3 is completed, which will be shortly, within a few weeks that we can immediately pursue remediation funds for the Thompson School. But we have interested parties for the Thompson School. I will concede all the interested parties that I've listed are also interested in the other two schools. But as I will show you in a later presentation, the reason I don't bring all three schools for approval for sale now is that you may have consideration of more potential developers for the other sites. So we're focusing on Thompson. If the mayor's request is granted by the council, you will be seeing that negotiations will be entered into at a price no lower than $200,000 for the Thompson School. We will immediately seek a 45 to 50 unit development on the site from the proper zoning arms so that the parcel is properly zoned. Currently, it's zoned as a public facility, a school, so that needs to happen. In the past, we would wait till we have a developer and then have the developer go before zoning. But we feel this will speed development if the developer knows in advance what they can do. And all three developers are within that range of 45 to 50 units. So we have two of the developers here. The Parkland Group is not here because they're not interested. Ted Lazarus was unable to be here tonight. He extends his apologies. He is still fully interested. But we also have Tyler Smith of the Alpha Investments, and I presented with you information concerning his group. And there are also folks, I believe, here from Enclave, yes, who have developed properties in New York and New Haven. And they actually have extended an offer sheet which did not make the latest deadline for this. I was also alerted by Councilor Donovan that he thought the map where you approved the sale of a parcel for the glass company. So I'm just gonna, so that everyone knows where that parcel is, I'm gonna pass out a very high-tech map here with a pink highlighter. I've shown you where the parcel is on the Thompson School parcel. So if you have any interest in the thoughts of the individual developers, they are here, so you can ask them questions or discuss, because in the end, one of the significant powers of this council is to approve the sale of land like this. The mayor can propose, but it is ultimately the council's decision. So I want you comfortable with decisions like this that you might make. After we finish with this area, I will have a discussion about why I think we should do this one school at a time because of the different proposals, and we'll give you one example of a recent proposal we have for Stiles. That is not to preclude this council from giving one developer all three schools.
Thanks.
It is just to show you that there is information and data that I want to make sure you're aware of so that whatever you do, you feel like you did what was best for the city of West Haven. I anticipate coming back in 30 days with a completed proposal on Stiles School. And I hope to be able to report that we have a zoning designation for Thompson at that point. So with that, I will let the chair of, through you, the chair, to the chair, if you have questions.
Thank you, Rich. Just so the council understands, so that map, that new map that was put out, that was for, in the packet, on Hall Street. That was, that section that is lined off is what we already sold to Anderson Glass. So that would replace the map that was in our original packet. Because that part of the land has been sold, so this would replace Hall Street. Chairman, I don't know, should we have them talk now or wait till it comes back out again for the whole council?
It's your choice. It's your choice.
All right, so I should make a motion first. Bring this out favorably, or should we wait for the?
Yes.
Right? So I want to make a motion to bring this out favorably, not committee, which would be,
I second it.
making the motion, Tommy, and
Oh, second.
Billy second. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? We're gonna have a discussion now, yeah, we might as well bring, gentlemen who are developers up.
All right, why don't I start with,
Can I just,
Oh.
Wait, we have, yeah, why don't we have questions from the council first?
I just have a point, just if I could ask the Corp Council a question.
Yeah.
So Lee, I understand what we're doing here. We're giving the mayor the authority to negotiate for the school. At the end of the day, the council's role is to sell or approve the sale of the building. The council's role is not to design what's in the building, right? Or approve what the building consists of. That's planning and zoning's role.
well,
I just want to make sure that we have our clear roles here. I mean, at the end of the day, we could want something, and at the end, if it doesn't fit into the plan of development, or the planning and zoning has different thoughts on it, they would modify that, correct?
yes. I think you are saying, though, if you vote favorably on the 5 points that I've listed, the first point is space for up to 50 units. So you are saying a conversion of that Thompson School into residential units is not it's something, I don't know if you have to say you favor it, but it's not something you disfavor. So that when it goes to the council, when it goes to the either Planning and Zoning Commission or ZBA or both, that they can rest assured that you've had some input. Now, that doesn't preclude, obviously, if, at those meetings, if residents and neighbors come up, all you're saying is that you are entertaining the idea that there could be residential units. You are correct. You actually can't decide whether there's 50 residential units. That's a different commission. That's either the ZBA or zoning or both. And so in the end, whatever you decide on that can be either vetoed, or I suppose they could go higher number of units if they wanted to.
And then once the contract is negotiated, it would need to come back to us for approval, correct?
That's up to you. It doesn't have to, but if you want to make sure that's part of the resolution, that's fine.
Yeah.
In your rules, don't forget, you have rules about the sale of property.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that I don't think you need to be in every part of, 40 different negotiations on a different sale of property. But I thought it was important to have a floor to not waste time. So, rather than have me come back 3 or 4 times on approval, I think I've laid out enough provisions that I should only have to come back once.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's appropriate that the vote would be that we give the mayor the authority to negotiate. Let's listen to the developers that we have here. They could give us a quick, synopsis of what their vision is. But then at the end of the day, it's going to have to come back to us once it goes to the other stops, right? I would like it to come back to us to have final approval on how much we're going to sell the building for.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's not here. I will just say, on behalf of the Park Lane Group, they have the same proposal. So it's for 55 and over units. They would try to create some form of incubator space in the existing auditorium. And it would be, he's looking at ideally 42, I would say, I will argue between 40 and 45 units. Like the others, he would want all 3 schools if he could. And he has a development history that he presented the last time. It's several different developments. And I can say personally, I've been in development situations where he was either on the other side of the table or on my side of the table. Next is a group.
Can I stop one more time?
Well,
So maybe 6 years ago-ish, right? So the council at that time sold that building or gave the authority to sell that building to the West Haven Housing Authority.
Correct.
Right? So whatever the grant that they went to get for it didn't come through, so it fell through, it went back on the table, and then Park Lane, I believe, was the next one that came before the council in 2019.
well, KCG, but then KCG backed out.
Right. So did Park Lane ever go to the next step, going to zoning?
No.
Okay. So this hasn't been, the concept, any of these concepts, because we could say that the council over the last 6 or 7 years have authorized the sale of the building based on the concept that we're gonna put some type of housing in it, right? Back
Yes.
then, it was 55 and older, or whatever it may be. So that concept hasn't changed, it's just, it hasn't translated into the planning and zoning or the neighbors being able to voice their opinions at a planning and zoning meeting, right?
Yes, but I think one important change is that you authorized a little piece of land to the glass, Anderson Glass. And what you did by that is, I'm now forced, kind of, sort of, if you want to be consistent with your 5-year plan of development, we need to go back, if we didn't do anything else, we would need to go back to zoning and say, what do you think of, he wants to do this, and so that's a public facilities district. So even if they're gonna zone that little piece and make it one parcel, so that would have had to have changed anyway. So I have to go to them anyway about that. If I'm gonna go about that, then I can add in the whole of Thompson School, and we can get a proper zoning designation for the whole parcel. What's interesting is, and what's helpful, I think, is what you did with Anderson Glass. If you look at the Campbell Ave side, I think we'd all agree is commercial activity. And then the other side of Thompson School, if you're facing Thompson School, the right side, is residential. So, there's a sweet spot in between, but nonetheless, we're beginning to break up the Thompson School parcel, and I'd have to go back to zoning anyway. The thought is, why don't I just go back with the whole parcel and maybe get the opinion of zoning? And don't forget, that will be a public hearing. The public will be able to come, discuss, say what they think, what people think about, the various issues of traffic and so on and so forth. I know council members have had and been involved in recent discussions about development along Route 1, about development along Campbell Avenue, Lower Campbell Avenue and the Buckle Factory. So it's certainly appropriate, before we get way ahead of ourselves, to know what the public and what the zoning commissions are going to allow for the site, rather than get bogged down into, oh, we have this great plan. Well, we have this great plan, but it's not going to make it. So, and it also puts the onus back on city government to make this happen. We're not dependent on developers to go back to zoning. We're going to do it. We're going to get a zoning designation, and then we're going to pivot and have a marketable property, hopefully progressing towards a clean property through remediation and a property that's properly zoned.
All set?
Thank you.
So Lee, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about traffic, because one of my concerns is that Hall Street is a one-way down Washington Avenue, down to Washington Avenue off of Campbell. So if you're talking about 45 to 50 units, the likelihood, if I see it a lot in West Haven, they would take that left and quickly try to go up the one way to get onto the highway. So I just, the developers are here, I'm just concerned about that. Like, that is my big concern, that people would want to do that. So we would really need a traffic study.
Yes.
And figuring out how people would get from that back parking lot to Richard Street to get to that light. And
All right, so let me address that, because what I believe the city would be proposing is, if you look on the map that I've presented with your little pink square, to the left of the pink square, you'll see a gray space on the corner of Campbell Avenue. That is 0.05 acres. Okay, that space is actually owned by the state of Connecticut. It was part of the rights of way they were granted when they put the 95 in. And what we would be seeking on both sides is potentially making Hall Street two-way to the end of, making Hall Street, that if you came out of this building, you could not go right on Hall Street. You'd have to go left. So anybody on that street would have to go left, and oddly enough, the only ones on that street would be whoever the residents or parkers are at Thompson School. So they would go left, it would be do not enter, right at the end of the border, and then it would not impact the one resident there, because what we'd be trying to do is not just get traffic to Campbell Avenue, but we would assume that the popular place would be getting on the on-ramp to the 95. Richard Street, I can't say that, we need more input on what people want there. But one of the things that could happen there is, at the minimum, is you could probably create some off-street parking for residents in front of Thompson School. There is room to do that, and it might be something that the residents might favor, because it is kind of a narrow street.
Be too narrow.
Parking in front of Thompson?
Yes, so widen the,
How are you parking across the street? You want parking on both sides, you think?
the neighbors might want that, because if you drive by Thompson School now, you will see,
Drive up on the sidewalk, yes.
well, you also see people parking in the little parking lot there, which will no longer be a place where they can park if the school's developed.
Okay. Thank you for,
I'll second, Councilman Hunt.
yes, thank you. Thank you.
Lately, just getting back to what you were saying, so you're looking to make Hall Street possibly a one-way,
Two-way,
making it a two-way now?
yes.
Right.
So two-way, but do not enter it right there. So it'd be two-way in and out. So people living at the new facility,
Just at Hall Street, just at the,
Everything they saw.
you're talking
just
about
that one
property
part of Hall
side,
Street.
making that a two-way.
And then a big do not enter sign right there at the border, so that they don't go any further. So then they're not coming into Washington Avenue or further down Hall Street. Now, Richards has two ways to enter Thompson School. I don't think any developer would want to give up either one of those. But you would probably want to enter on the right side and have an exit on the left where you have a wider berth. Yeah.
Anybody else have a, yes, Councilman Cohen?
Lee, I just had a couple questions. One of them is just clarification. I know that we, at least, unless I'm missing something, what we received is a packet from Park Lane because they're not here this evening. But will we be receiving other packets from the other two? Or are we just?
Well, you received information about each group,
Oh,
and I think you received,
maybe
well, you
I
should have.
missed- Maybe I'm missing something, or maybe
Hold
I'm
on.
misunderstanding. Anybody else could give us two groups?
Yeah, page 11, I guess.
Oh, that's Park Lane.
I'm just wondering, because I really didn't. I'm not saying that we didn't, but I didn't. So
You got the synopsis on the front.
Hold on.
Yeah, I got the synopsis, but we didn't get anything
No,
else. besides-
no,
Yeah, that's what I was-
yeah, no, Barry, you're right.
Hold on.
See, what I'm saying is we didn't receive any yeah, what I'm saying is the only thing we got was Park Lane. I just want to make sure that we
Oh.
can get, if it's possible, you know, I think it's great to hear tonight your presentations, but if we could get the packets, that would be great.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, you should have gotten a write-up by the Enclave Group, and you should have gotten a write-up from
Yeah,
Alpha. Yeah, they're here, I apologize for that.
no, I'm
I-
just saying, if they can just send it out, it would be okay, Mr. Chair, if we could get them after the meeting. And the other question I had too, Lee, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
No, when I read the Park Lane Group, and this might be old, I don't know, but they basically only state a couple of times in their proposal, 30 units. Now, they, like on page 5 of their proposal, under residents, they state 30 units, and then on another page, they also state, and I just lost the page, well, anyway, it stated 30 units in this proposal, and maybe the proposal's older, I don't know, what, you know, is it 45 or is it 30?
Yeah, so he would want the if he's only gonna get one school, he might want flexibility for more units.
But what I'm saying is.
He's good with 30 units if you got all 3 schools still.
Yeah, what I'm saying, but just so I'm clear, that the city wants to negotiate so that this school, this one application is, unless I'm misunderstanding here, that we're trying to get 40 to 45 units there, or is the city going to settle for 30? I'm not confused.
We're gonna apply
We're going to apply,
for up to 45 to 50 units and
Okay,
see
but-
what the zoning decision rests after that analysis.
Okay, so then after that, it could be 30, it could be 35, it could be, okay, so the 30 I shouldn't get caught up on in terms of their
Could be
proposal.
2 dozen brownstones, I don't know.
No, what I'm just saying, because they're saying, I didn't say 40 or 45, as you had stated. that.
Yeah, you're correct.
I just want to make sure I understand.
You're correct, you're correct.
And my final question for right now, if you could, just for my own clarification, on page 2, number 3, it says sell the bidding, I say it one more time. sell the building for a price that must exceed $200,000. I was just wondering, where did we get $200,000? Was the building appraised or something like that? And the reason why I asked the question is, since we're going to go after, or we've got remediation for the building, unlike the library, you know, where we weren't sure about remediation, and we got the remediation, this is like a given, I believe, that we're saying, we're gonna remediate the building and then give it to the, and then sell it to the developer.
Right.
I'm a little confused where the $200,000 from.
All right, so you have two developers here,
Yep,
and they would both tell you
okay,
that they would be willing to pay more than $200,000 for the building.
right. And
So the math is not more difficult than that.
No, and my point of it is it's, you know, again, this is just me. I mean, you know, I'm looking at this and I think we all agree it's worth more than $20,000, okay? That was my number one. Number three, I think that must exceed. Personally, sell the building for a price that must exceed. I think if we have to, must exceed more than $200,000. I mean, if we're gonna go into negotiations with anybody, I mean, that $200,000 to me seems awful low for us.
Well, that's why, I mean, you can change that number.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, I'm surprised that we even stated $200,000. I would have stated whatever the market, I'm not a realtor, but.
Well, I would say the market has told me,
Well, I mean, right now.
the market has told me that it would be foolish to go below that number.
Right.
Because we've had two legitimate offers above that number.
Right.
And the Park Lane Group bid $450 for 3 schools. So I would think 200,000 is low, purposely low, but we shouldn't go below that number. I suppose if somebody came up, you know, they wanted the building for some reason for free, then you are kind of foreclosing that in the negotiations. On the flip side, if you wanted to make the floor higher, I'm not objecting to that, and the mayor's not objecting to that.
Yeah, I'm just, again, my personal opinion is we should make the floor higher than $200,000, but,
As long as you give me a floor, I'm good.
I mean, I'm not a realtor, but I mean.
Gotta come back to us anyway.
Yeah, it's gonna come back to us anyway, so yeah, I just thought I was wondering where you got $200,000.
No, if you don't have any floor,
No,
then I
you
can't,
explained it.
yeah, I can't limit myself to who I negotiate with.
Right. Oh, yeah, I am, thank you.
Just so I have it clear in my head, they're no longer a package deal. We're gonna get 3 separate proposals from the 3 separate schools, even though they might go to the same developer.
Correct.
Okay, and then my other question is totally different. Do you know offhand how many parking spaces are at Thompson School?
Yes, but every proposal would use some of the parking lot for housing.
Oh,
So,
they're gonna-
it's
they're
more-
gonna take
yeah,
the-
it's not that
They're
simple.
gonna take the building down?
No, both developers would utilize, buildings that were built in that era are extremely well-built. Thompson actually still holds on to, if a developer wishes, historical significance. So would still qualify for historic tax credits, run about 15%. So they would have that ability to come back to you with that. But all of them, you know, when building on the parking lot new units, that's the cheapest, that's the least expensive way to develop units. Renovating a building, all of them would tell you that that is more expensive than building new. And so when you give them the ability to build on open space land, that's really good. The other thing that's very good for the city is that you can build this in 2 phases that way. You could actually build a phase on the empty land while you remediate and keep things moving. And it would allow a stream of income to the developer before they finish. So that could be a very favorable piece.
All right, that makes more sense. Okay, thank you.
All set? Does anybody else have any, yes, speak?
I got one question, Lee. This thing, if they buy it, it's a done deal. It's not gonna come back to us like other buildings been, right?
No, there's no,
Sealed. I don't
There's
wanna
no
hear
warranty
anybody-
on- there's no
any
warranty on the
excuses or anything. I don't have this, I don't have this, I didn't get this. Done?
yeah, no. So there are due diligence requirements in the purchase and sale agreement that require that they have all the due diligence to look through the building, inspect it. And once they own it, they own it. They can't give
Okay.
it back. The only way they could give it back is if we didn't disclose something in the building, like an ancient burial ground or something.
Once I see it gone, that's all.
All set, Tom?
I'm done.
So you got- Anybody else? Yes, Tom?
Yeah, I forgot to ask this question. On page 2, did you want to finish the statement there, or is, if the, at register number 5, you said, if the council wants to limit.
Yes, so
what
that's-
did you want to say there?
Well, if the council wanted to put any other limitations,
Oh,
that's your
limitations.
space.
I got you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
To fill in the blank.
Gotcha. Okay, limitations. All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Do we wanna?
Yeah, I think that if we could, the gentlemen
Yeah, they're
are
here.
Yeah,
All right.
let
Let me-
me,
Tyler, could you come up? So first of all, I apologize to you, Tyler, and I apologize to the council. I thought I did transmit his information, but I'm sure Tyler can say it off the top of his head.
Absolutely.
So I welcome you. This is Tyler Smith. He's with Alpha Investments, and I'll let him tell you. I talk too much anyway, the council. I'll let him tell you what Alpha Investments.
Tyler, could you just give your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Tyler Smith, and I live in New Haven, 360 State Street. So really what I'm proposing to do over there is obviously turn it into residential apartments. But I also understand that there's a lot of concerns from the community as well. So I want to work hand in hand with you guys to figure out something that makes sense for everybody. At the end of the day, like I want to be as flexible as I possibly can to figure out something that makes sense for everyone here as well as myself. I mean, do you guys have any questions specifically for me?
Why don't you tell them about the two successful developments that you told.
Okay, yeah. So I have actually multiple different properties that I have right now. I have 39 units that I purchased in the Black Rock area of Bridgeport. All of those properties were extremely dilapidated, really beat up. I went through and I redid everything. So all new siding, all new windows, all the way down to the studs, electrical, plumbing, all that good stuff. I also have another school in Shelton. That is a 12 unit and I'm doing the same thing over there. So, that one was actually converted in the 1980s and I'm now going through and I'm bringing that up to date. So my plan is to be, pretty much do the same thing with these buildings and actually make something happen for the city. I know, they've been sitting for a while and everyone really likes to see something happen with them. And I'd like to be the person to, get this done for you guys.
Anybody got any questions? Yes, Councilman Bruno.
So, if you were the highest bidder, when you renovate these schools, once you have your approvals, how long does it take you to turn this around?
I mean, realistically, the day we close, I can get my guys in there and start cleaning up everything right away. At the end of the day, it's really going to come down to how quickly we could push it through zoning. Because, of course, I can't really do much until we get those approvals in place. But, at the end of the day, I have a huge team and we move very quickly. So at the end of the day, it's really at the mercy of you guys how quickly we can start. I've been urging them, I can close this thing tomorrow. We can get this thing going. But at the end of the day, I know we can only move so quickly. So, it's kind of in the city's hands at this point.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for him? Yes. Councilman Cohen, yes, go right ahead.
Hi.
How's it going?
I'm just curious, it's, first of all, I like your energy. And I
Thank
like your
you.
enthusiasm and, you seem to be a real go-getter. And from the little bit that I've read here, that's why I'm interested to get your packet. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I'm interested in you. You developed 12 and 15 unit projects according to what we have here.
Yep.
And, to your point, and I appreciate your comment that you want to work with us and with the city to make what's ever right there.
Absolutely.
But you had mentioned 50, but regardless of the numbers, it could be 30, 40, 50, whatever the number is. What is the size of your queue? Because at a minimum, you might be doubling the size of the project you've ever had before. And at a maximum, you might be tripling the size of a project that you've ever had before.
Absolutely.
So give us an idea of your
So
company.
right now I have 76 units and at the end of the day, I'm kind of like a go big or go home type of person. And I know what I can do. And at the end of the day, the money isn't the problem. Really it's just putting this thing in motion and getting it going. So, really, that doesn't scare me or bother me or, I encourage that challenge. That's what I want. That's why I'm standing here in front of you guys today to do something that I haven't done before, something that big. But, when I latch onto something like that, I'm not going to let go. I'm going to make sure that I see it through and get it done.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
I just have a quick question. You
Sure.
talked about the Black Rock development.
Absolutely.
Do you have pictures of like
Oh, yeah.
before and after
Oh, yeah.
that we could see?
I can
'Cause-
provide everything.
Because I think that would, because I know the Black Rock section, because I grew up in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would love to see
Yeah,
them.
for
I don't
sure.
wanna
I
speak for
probably have
anybody
like
else,
hundreds of
but
pictures of all the units before and after, during the renovation and everything. So I could definitely put that together for you guys in a nice little package so you guys can check it out.
That would absolutely be
Yeah.
great, because to me, they always say, picture speaks 1,000
Yeah,
words.
I
so-
could give you all the properties, a lot of those, I could give you all the buildings, so you can get a better idea of the quality of work I do, because at the end of the day, I want my tenants to live how I live, right? I don't want them to live in, bad conditions or anything like that. I like to make everything nice, new, and it makes it easier for everyone, because they have a good place that they enjoy living in, that they don't want to leave. And also, I don't have to continuously maintain the unit and fix this and fix that because I did it right the first time, right? So I try and do things right the first time so you don't have to do it again. But yes, I can absolutely provide a ton of pictures.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Gary.
I definitely appreciate that, and I
Yeah.
think everybody would like to see all the developers, all that stuff. Anybody else have anything? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just one more thing.
Yeah.
When you put together your packet, besides the pictures and your past work and so forth, something that I thought was good in the packet that we saw, just to make sure that you had the financing, because obviously.
Oh, absolutely. No
you have,
problem.
Obviously, an
Yep.
estimation of what you want to do, so.
You got it.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
As you heard, again, advancing the zoning question advances the ball, even, you've heard it here quickly. I will get you, I don't have the Black Rock record, so he will provide me those. We will get those to you. But I can tell you that Mr. Smith has been to the site. We've allowed him to inspect the building, to inspect the property, and yet he still came back here and enthusiastic, so, very good.
Thank you.
You brought him to the wrong building.
Yeah, so this is Enclave Development, again, apologize. But they have developed properties in New York and developed properties in New Haven. And they're gonna tell you about themselves and be available for any questions.
Hello. Good afternoon. I have some of these brochures. I thought that we can pass them out.
We could share, we could share.
You want to share?
Yeah.
You and I.
Watch that wire, rather.
Ooh, nice kitchen.
Ooh, no, we need some glass to hold that pinky up. Keep it where sharing.
No. A glass of wine.
Sir, just your name and address for the
Yes,
record.
Fernando Pastor in 89 Mulberry Hill Street in Hamden, Connecticut. So, good evening.
Good evening.
So you are looking at a brochure that we put together to present ourselves to you as a potential developer for these schools. As you see there, we have plenty of experience. We did many projects in New York, in Connecticut. Last project I did is in Whitney Modern in New Haven. It's what it was the Red Cross house in Whitney Avenue. We transformed that into 7 luxury residential units. Did before a church on State Street, also 7 units there on a beautiful 100-year-old church. Before that, we converted it's not there, but we converted a nursing home in Bridgeport, 40 units there's a little picture out there. So we've done this many times in New York. We did many buildings also, and we think that this is an interesting point where we want to bring our brand to West Haven and create these luxury units instead of. We think that New Haven and all this area, the shoreline, is ready to get this higher end housing. So that's why we're proposing this school. We don't know exactly the number of units. It's between 30 and 45. We may build a new building on the site and restore the building with lesser units. These buildings are they have a classroom about this size, and that classroom is probably one apartment. We're not going to chop them down. We want to keep the windows and the space the way it is. So the school has maybe 10 units per floor. So you come the basement and 2 more floors, it's 30 units. We're planning to put maybe a third floor on top of that, so it will be a 4th floor in the school. We did some renderings for the style school. We started working on the style. We're working on Thompson now, but this is probably telling the idea of adding a floor on top. So that floor is new construction there. So basically, this is a unit. That's a unit. That's the classroom. But up here we have a little more larger unit. They are all 1 and 2 bedrooms, maybe 50-50, and. In both sides, there's plenty of room for cars. There's plenty of room for amenities. For probably going to do in every basement a gym for the residents. And the one thing that we are trying to create is this opportunity here is that we have 2 or 3 buildings to put this same brand, so people from one can go to the next. They can rent and move on and share the facilities, share the space, the community spaces, and so that's one thing that we want to bring to West Haven, because we're doing it in New Haven successfully, and that's about it basically.
Anybody have questions?
So, we hear a lot that in rental units, market rate. So are these going to be market rate apartments?
Yeah.
And so my follow-up question is what's the market, right? Because I've heard that, you know, as housing stock has gone up, so have rental units. So a typical 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom rent now in your building, if you were to build, what would it be approximately?
It would be probably in between 1,600 and 1,800 a 1-bedroom, and that's probably high for West Haven now, but that doesn't prove that there's no market for that kind of rents.
Mm-hmm.
In Whitney Avenue, for instance, we are renting the one apartment is like $3,000, and like a year ago, no one thought that someone is going to pay that much for an apartment. But that's the market. The people are looking for these branded units in a very interesting building. That's what they value. They value the location, and they value also the building itself. And these buildings are great, basically. They have great bones, designed by great architects in the time. Even if they have dilapidated for many, many years, and they are contaminated, the bones are really great. And that's why we are interested in giving these buildings another 100 years old of life, basically. And that's what interests us most, is to reclaim this building for good use.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
So I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead. I'm going to tell you about the...
Okay. Just when you started out, so you're looking at market rate. So none of this is going to be affordable housing or
No.
any type. So, and the other question that I had was, it is an older building, and if you said it, I didn't hear it correctly, but, are you looking at any type of historic preservation for the
No.
building? Not at all?
No.
Because I thought you might have also said, and again, if I heard it wrong, I apologize, that you might consider knocking down some of the building?
No.
No?
What we said is that, what I said is that this building has plenty of room to build another building. So we may want to build a one building with like 10, 15 units or
Okay,
20
then.
units, and then build the less units in the old building, because
Okay.
the bones of these buildings, they don't allow you. Like if you get a classroom this size, and imagine all those are windows, you can split this in three small units, or you can do this is one unit. So that's when the number of units is flexible until we really study the whole thing. And basically, we know that with 30 to 40 or 40 to 50 units, we are okay. We don't know how many are in the old building, how many are in a new building. And it may pan up that we don't build anything new, or we build everything in that side, we build as a third floor. Oh no, it's too flexible now until we really take the business. And what I was going to say is that the offer there has a couple of things that may interest you. Is that we are offering the offer, and then we're saying that if we don't comply in the first 3 years, we finish this project, we are doubling the offer, basically. We are paying you more because we didn't perform. That thing that some probably never heard of, but that's our carrot to finish first and to give you the right product, basically.
Well, that kind of leads to I have a second question. I was going to go back to that, I'll go to that question now, is if the 3 years starts once you get approval for the piece to purchase, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Well, when we get the zoning approval,
Excuse me,
right?
the zoning, so
Yep.
that's when the clock starts ticking.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing too is, again, going back to the thing that, you could add a second building, maybe not add a second building based on what you see. But in your vision, you talk about 1-bedroom units, right? That's what we're talking about.
1 and 2.
One
Yep.
and two. For like a 1-bedroom unit, what's the approximate square feet you're looking at for a 1-bedroom unit?
It's like 850.
Okay, so yours is 800 square feet, for like about.
Yeah, it's about the classroom size, so the classroom is
Okay,
1 bedroom.
and that's for a 1-bedroom, and what about a 2-bedroom approximately?
It's another 200 or 300 square feet. Of,
About, okay, 1,100?
12, yeah, 11, 12, yeah.
11, 12?
And again, it depends on each, the spaces in the school, because we don't want to, if that's a wall of the classroom, we don't want to move that wall. That wall stays there, so whatever is on the other side is the next unit.
Gotcha.
And bear in mind, this school has very, very large corridors. They have like 15-foot corridors. We're going to keep them the way it is. We're not planning to build inside the corridors, so that's what it gives this building some grandeur, basically. People will love to live in a building like that. And you have an example here, right? You have the high school. It's a very well developed building. It's a little bit dated, but that's what it is.
Are you looking for any type of, in your plans, any type of ecological solar, anything like that? Are you looking at any type of?
We are studying all these environmental, like green, maybe solar, maybe like gas generators that are providing all the heat for the building. Instead of having individual units, we're going to have one central heating and cooling central location, basically, like the old buildings were built before. Geothermal is also a consideration.
Thank you.
Solar might be tough because the highway is pretty high right there.
I'm talking about the state.
Yes, so all these are good questions, but basically until we don't start a project, we don't know all the answers, and we'll start really getting the property, basically.
Thank you.
Anyone more? Any questions? No. Yeah, we're building now a project on Fairhaven that it's 904 Quinnipiac Avenue. It's a completely different in a way, but there's an old house, Victorian house that we're converting into 4 units, and then we're building 8 more units on a very modern style. They're like white boxes on tilts because they are on the shore, and this is a site that has is on the river on the Quinnipiac, so it's a very exciting project. It's there in the brochure. Is there?
And that was again 904?
904 Quinnipiac, yeah, Quinnipiac Avenue, yeah. And we're happy to show you any of these buildings. Like, they are here, so I can show you in New Haven. I can drive and show you buildings that I did in the past, and we can go to New York and see buildings there. I encourage you to do the same with other developers, just to check what they've done before.
Any other questions for Clay?
Lee Styles is, I don't know if that's considered a creek. I don't know what that's considered, right?
What do you mean?
Town school.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So they would have to go in front of inland wetlands, correct?
All right, so Stiles is in a TOD district because of the Cove River and the Phipps Lake.
Transit oriented. district, transit-oriented.
Oh, I'm
because
sorry, yeah, transit-oriented district because of the train station. And because you have Phipps Lake up the top of the dam, and you also have the Cove River, it would definitely be in wetlands. But it has different, because it's in a transit-oriented district, there are more things you can do as of right at that property than you can do at Thompson.
Can we make that again?
In a transit-oriented district, there are more,
There's nothing you could do at that property that
yes,
you
there are
could
more
do.
development opportunities in a transit-oriented district. So, for instance,
I'm concerned about the creek and the lake.
we're not,
And
I promise we won't move either. But yeah, that's,
do you wanna know what my concern is?
go ahead.
Okay, so, I just am wanting to ensure that we are very much aware that we are a city that is very passionate about our water, and that we are getting back to where it matters. So, I don't know who has the most experience, or who may or may not care, but when we talk about solar, when we talk about all of that, it is very, very important that we take into consideration the land and where you're building, and when you're building, how that might impact, or how you might ensure that that creek next to you, we don't wanna tell you it's there, we want you to know that it's
No,
there.
we know that it's there, and we've done many projects on the shoreline.
No, I'm not
And-
just saying this to you, and with all due respect, I was still speaking. We just want you to know that it's there, and that when you come before us, that you're taking into account and you're speaking to how you're gonna preserve it, and that you building or doing whatever, be it you or the other two gentlemen who might wanna do it as well, that is important to us. And Stiles School is right near a creek and the other way, and that's all I gotta say about that.
And that'll be something like style. Right now, we're just dealing with Thompson, correct?
Right.
Rolling Stiles.
Right? Yes,
Yeah.
no, I agree.
No, we're gonna have I'm gonna explain why we're not gonna do 3 schools in 2 minutes on that Styles project.
Yes, Councilwoman.
This question is just stylistically, you said that you all are designing or building an apartment, like housing in Fairhaven, right? Did you say
Yes.
Fairhaven?
Mhm.
Okay, so the goal of what you want to structure here in West Haven, would it be similar to that, congruent to that, or something like you've done in Astoria?
No, this is a different building, this is a different location, it's completely different. Yeah, this is gonna be, it's almost historical preservation. The units inside the building will be modern, they will be with contemporary materials and spaces, but it's gonna be respecting the building and the openings, the windows, the salvaging the floors if we can, the ceilings if we can, and again, it's a historical building. That's what we do in other projects, where in Quinnipiac we're doing both. There's a house that we're restoring, and the new units on the back that are the modern units.
Thank you. It's very artistic, and so I'm just thinking about the type of people that it would draw, even the church glass stained
Right,
windows
right.
on Church Street.
Well,
So, yeah, I was
those,
just interested in.
imagine that was a fight with the owners, because the owners were Jewish buying this church. So just to preserve those pieces of glass up there was a very big fight with them, and I took that on myself because I wanted to preserve the stained glass. The rest of the stained glass is in my house, for instance, because I couldn't throw it out.
Thank you. That's it.
Anybody else have any questions for Enclave? Okay, I believe Councilwoman O'Connor, you had a question for Alpha. for Tyler.
Yes, I
I think
have.
we're all set.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, I had one more question for you. Enclave said they wouldn't have any affordable housing. Going
That's
through the
my
Park
concern.
Lane group, they said they're gonna have 20% of the units be affordable. What were your plans as far as rent?
So I was thinking market rate housing as well.
Okay. That's all I just wanted to know.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. That sort of was why I asked, stylistically, how would West Havens be designed? Because as I'm looking, I see that it will draw, a certain group of people, obviously, who are of a socioeconomic background. So that would be very important to me as well.
Absolutely.
That people are able to afford to live in something
Yeah, of
of
course.
great quality. So Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, if I might, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to call up Hunter Naseby. This came up, and I'm not going to belabor it. We're not going to keep you here any longer than we have to, but we thought it was important to tell you that we're getting different proposals for different schools. So we recently got a proposal. One of the things that came up was, Hunter's going to tell you a little bit about something called hydroponics and growing things in water and being able to have fresh grown lettuce right here in your backyard. And we recently, he has experience in it. He's a Cornell grad and is a lot smarter than me on these things. And so we put out an RFP because we have, I'm going to go low, he'll go higher. We have at least 50 acres of land that we can't develop for anything else other than hydroponics for a variety of reasons. And so we put out an RFP to see if there was any interest by hydroponic companies, people that do this for a living and make a profit, whether they had an interest, and we got 5 proposals. So there's a strong interest in hydroponics, and I would say there'll be hydroponics in West Haven's future very shortly. But he just wanted to show you just how varied your proposals for style school could be. And I'll just let him talk about what a new proposal we got. So with that, underneath.
So, thank you to the council for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight.
Just your name and address for the record, please.
Of course. Hunter Naseby, 61 Shore Road, Clinton, Connecticut. So I'm here, as Lee said, to introduce a new development opportunity for the Style School site. Like Lee said, I'm a recent Cornell graduate working with a great team at Shoreline Supply Chain Consulting, LLC. And part of what we do is connect municipalities with innovative developers in sustainable industry. So we're really excited to be working with the city of West Haven on some great projects. And Corporation Counsel Attorney Lee Tiernan brought me on board as part of the city's larger efforts to utilize some of the more than 60 acres of undeveloped land owned by West Haven. And we believe that this will bring good jobs and other benefits to residents of West Haven. So as part of this effort, we put out a request for qualifications for a hydroponic production company to come to the city and develop on some currently non-productive land. Hydroponic production, if you wouldn't mind hitting the next. So hydroponic production is the use of high-tech, sustainable systems to produce large volumes of high-quality, pesticide-free, fresh produce, and to do so year-round in small spaces. Connecticut currently imports over 90% of the produce consumed in the state, and that's mostly from places like California. And that means by the time most of the fruits and vegetables we eat are getting to the supermarkets, they're stale, and a lot of them are contaminated with all kinds of stuff like pesticides. So obviously, so California can only grow a few months out of each year, and obviously they don't have the most stable water supply. So hydroponics is becoming more lucrative for the Northeast, and it's capturing more and more of the produce market in the country. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry right now that's continuing to grow at an exponential rate. So the goal with our RFQ was to connect with leaders in the industry and have them come in and expand their business in West Haven. And we've received some incredible responses from some really successful companies. And the potential development I'm bringing to your attention today is coming from the Day Brothers LLC, who are very experienced in large-scale developments. In the past 20 years, they've led many projects, including the St. James Apartment Tower, which is a 45-story high-rise apartment building in downtown Philadelphia, as well as the Pacific Beacon Residential Complex, which is made up of 4 18-story buildings that are part of a naval base in downtown San Diego. And next, we got the model that we see here in the next slide is the one that's going to be proposed for development on the Style School site. And it's based on a model that they currently have underway in downtown Westport, Maine. They developed this model in collaboration with the people over at Vertical Harvest. And Vertical Harvest is a hydroponic production company based in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which has been very successful for the past 6 years and places a priority on hiring people with physical and mental disabilities. So the model brings together two main components: indoor farming and urban development. Part one is a 4-story vertical hydroponic farm, which will produce fresh lettuce that will be available locally within 24 hours of harvest. Part two is 8,000 square feet of commercial space for food service tenants and 60 modern residential apartment units. As you can see, the picture really speaks for itself. It's a great concept. It looks amazing. We want to make sure that the council is aware of this development opportunity as different options for the Style School site are being considered. We think this is an incredible opportunity for West Haven to do something really unique and innovative with the site, as well as bring new industry into the city that would provide jobs and fresh food for West Haven residents. Excuse me. Thank you all for your time, and I have some images if you'd like to take a look at them.
Thanks.
I have a question. So this is interesting. So I go to Florida a lot, nationals, and I go to Disney, and we go on this thing, and they're growing plants and strawberries and bananas, and that's what this is.
Yeah, I have some friends that work there actually. They have a really nice setup down in Disney. Yeah.
That is, and they grow it all, and that's how they bring food into their restaurants, and that is, wow. You're very impressive.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
so-
much.
Did you want to say something, Lee?
Well, I was just going to point out, along those lines, in your community, you have University of New Haven, you have the Veterans Hospital, you have our own Board of Ed, and you have Notre Dame High School. Those are 4 places where a fresh produce producer could establish contracts in advance of their startup. And so it makes this location a particularly good location for this type of activity.
Thank you.
So, if we were to do that on Styles, and I'm sorry if you said this, what exactly, it'd be 4 floors where they would grow lettuce, and then, I mean, this isn't Main Street or, yeah, but what would the rest be, did you say?
Yeah, so the rest would be, the second part is 8,000 square feet of commercial space for food service tenants and 60 modern residential apartment units. And you can kind of, yeah, and part of that would be a grocery or more of a produce store where the lettuce actually being produced on the farm would be available for sale directly in the same building.
So why lettuce?
So lettuce is, yeah, a lot of people ask that question. Lettuce is really one of the main pieces of, one of the main produce that has had the most success in hydroponics so far. Things like tomatoes and take much more space, and things like herbs are a lot harder to deal with. So lettuce has really been the one that's like the most sure to have financial success.
Just in general, about microgreens.
Okay. Lee also wants me to talk about, we have another possible development opportunity to bring in a much smaller scale microgreen producer. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with microgreens, but it's a very high value hydroponic product where different producers take different sorts of crops, like whether it be baby kale, baby bok choy, anything like that, grow them to an infant stage, harvest them, and then they go for very high market value, up to $45 a pound in some cases. And in that instance, we have a potential developer that's looking to do more of a shipping container type of development where they would just be producing in that unit and trying to get as much community involvement as possible in terms of running that unit and ownership of that unit as well.
So why Styles? Like, why did they want Styles in lieu of Thompson or in lieu of the other? Or is it, I'm just curious.
Well, Styles is, if you include everything, Styles is a 4-acre site. As you've, yeah,
It's what?
it's a 4-acre site.
No, and what's Thompson? I mean, I'm just being curious. I'm just not that they should do Thompson. I'm just wondering why that.
Thompson is, I don't have my map here. It's a little smaller.
And what about the lake?
Thompson
It must
is
go much
a
deeper
little
than
over
that.
2, 2.5.
Styles must go much deeper than.
Well, don't forget, Styles has the tip of Lake Phipps there, and you have your little dam, and you have a wooded area. It's actually, if it were landscaped properly, it could be a beautiful site. And then you have the meandering Cove River that comes through, almost like an S around the edge. So there is plenty of space. Obviously, this use, they like water, so they'll be a friend of the water. But
No,
the,
I'm just curious. That's all.
yeah, no, they need,
I didn't
so.
realize it was that big.
No, all of the hydroponic examples need a certain amount of space. They can do the small stuff, but the small stuff is small return. In other words, you'd almost be giving away stuff if it was too small. The microgreens is really a high end. I mean, that's a money making kind of thing. That's almost like, you know, the truffle guy in town or whatever. So, but they do need a certain amount of capacity. So we are looking at spaces, Hunter and myself, mostly Hunter, looking at spaces that have enough capacity where we can attract these 5 different groups that have approached us. The other thing that we did in advance is we discussed this with the school superintendent. And so there might be 2 producers that you pick, because you could have one where your whole concept is you're going to put it out of school and you're going to leverage that piece. So the kids are involved. The kids come to tour it. It's on site. You hire the kids to work it. You have summer employment for the kids, and it's right there at the school. That hopefully also gets buy-in by the community at the school. Style School, you know, one of the features that the particular developer that we were talking with liked is the idea that they'd have a store and it's already a retail corridor. So you already have a Stop and Shop there, you have the other retail stores, and then you'd have this fresh produce store. So they thought that was a nice feature. Also, the height of the building, you know, their height is going to be consistent with probably the existing height of Style School. So that shouldn't rile anybody in terms of, you see the glass structure. But I think you'd find, at least the renditions that we found, they were all fairly aesthetically, you know, desirable. So,
Yeah.
but the point really isn't. The point really is to say, we're going to have more. You are going to be able to decide on many more options. I mean, I had another producer who said, "Oh, I'd like to take the building and just have self-storage there." I had someone else come in. They want to have the whole building be commercial, and I know that this council. And I would say pretty much everybody has expressed to me at one point or another the concern that the only development that seems to come in is housing development, right? So I want to assure you that here is a difference. You can still you've already heard, you got at least 2 developers and probably more that are interested in housing developments. Even what Hunter discussed has a housing piece. But you are going to have more options with Styles than you have with Thompson because of its location and because of its girth and because of the acreage and so on and so forth.
So Lee, thank you for putting this together. I think you whet our palate, you gave us a smorgasbord of options that are coming down the pike. I don't want to go into discussion about this concept until it's on the agenda. So when will we see?
30 days. 30
All right,
days, you'll have a proposal about Style School.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Since it's like agricultural, what does that mean like for taxes? Is it curb our taxes at all?
I thought I'd get away with that. So, one of the advantages for the hydroponics is that agricultural activity is taxed at a 17% rate, whereas your little abode is taxed at a 70% assessed value rate. So the agricultural part, they probably would be looking for a 17% rate. Now, I would add that any developer you have, including the ones that are before you today and any other developer, I have not encountered a developer that isn't going to want and will seek a tax abatement, which is, you can do that up or down, doesn't really matter, but they're all going to be seeking one. They're not seeking a tax abatement at 17%, but yes, an agricultural activity. Now, that doesn't mean the whole site, right? But the agriculture piece could be taxed at a lower rate. So you'll have to factor that in as to whether or not that's of interest to the city. I can tell you that other sites, and certainly sites that have wetlands is the one cutout exemption on wetlands for development is agricultural activity. So you could have city-owned land or land we could foreclose on, for example, that has no other useful purpose, and at least you'd get your 17% on that land. So we're exploring that piece. But the reason, that's potentially a downside.
Excuse me, Lee.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt. Great question, but I think maybe we should hold off on the questions about styles and all this other stuff until it is brought to us. No disrespect, it just, we can.
I got my
we
answer.
actually all have a lot of questions.
Yes.
We can be here till midnight talking
Yep.
about that, which is a great
Yep.
concept, don't get me wrong. I'd just like to move along on the
I
agenda.
I defer to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you all.
Yeah, nice job, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I believe at this point, we're all in, back to the committee. We have a discussion, all in favor, bring this out favorably. Any opposed? None? Any abstentions? All right, so the next one is communication H, which is the sale of portion of Front Avenue parcel. And you go again, Lee.
Yeah, so
Oh, first of all, hold on. I need to make a motion to bring this out favorably. Second. Not a question.
all right, so the owner of 19 Atwood Place discovered that they have a difficult time hooking up to water, which is curious because we have a sewer charge we levy on the property, and usually the sewer charge is based on water usage, so I can't explain that. All they really wanted was some form of easement. So the water hookup, if you look at Taft Avenue, it's not dead center, it's closer to 3/4 over, if you're looking at the map overhead, it's 3/4 over the water hookup. So it appeared to me that it's not necessarily in the city's best interest to grant an easement, so they dig up the property, run a line. You currently have municipal stadium in an enterprise zone, and for the city to put yet another piece of infrastructure underneath that we don't get any money or any advantage of. If you look at the property that we've colored in here, it's overgrown and serves no purpose for the existing use of the stadium, and we would argue not really any further purpose. In the back, the 20-foot wide, there's actually about 40 feet from the outfield wall, so we even have space there. It's very hard to get to. I've run this by the Public Works Department. They have no objection. If you look at the land that borders Atwood, that's completely overgrown, is not only of no use to the city, has never been of any use to the city. So I thought it was in a better interest to the city that we be able to force the sale of the land. So that's what I negotiated with the owners, and they have agreed to buy the land that you see portrayed in your maps in green for the purpose of doing a water hookup, and the city would retain any easement rights or rights of way necessary to maintain its property. But I think the other positive element is it will expand the Atwood Place property, make that more commercially viable, and we would anticipate generate higher tax revenue in that space. Plus, they're going to have a water hookup, so now they can start to do the expansion and renovations that they want. But I don't think it diminishes the value in any way of the remainder of Municipal Stadium. And it also is consistent with what has come before this council, which is trying to assist property owners in expanding their existing footprint, which we found a really pretty good reception to when we've reached out to adjoining property owners when we have a piece of land that the city owns that really has no other value. So with that, any questions?
Any questions from the committee members? No. I'd like to open it up to council. Any questions at all on this piece of property?
Just got to call the vote.
Oh, okay, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
Motion carries. All right, the next one we have is in regards to section 824, deferral of abandonment of City Street, which is a portion of Goodhue Street, municipal improvements to 28 College Street. Do I have a motion to bring this up? Second? Any discussion with the committee? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion passes. And at this time, Public Lands Committee is closed at 8:44.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. We unfinished business, we have none. The council will now reconvene for committee reports. The clerk would read Communication E into the record.
We have Communication E from tax collector in regards to overpayment refunds for the month of August 2021, which will be filed this May.
Thank you, Stacy. First committee to report out will be the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Hosky.
To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance rules referred the matter of the animal shelter donation reports that the committee met on the 23rd day of August 2021. To consider the matter, it is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the following donation to the Department of Police Service be approved and deposited into line item 1010000028285 animal shelter donations. Lana Mystery for $100, Westies Nutrition for $751.64. Patricia DeFelice for $200, Angela Russo for $100, Edith Lucas for $5, Angela Russo for $100, Florence Palermo for $25, and Daly Daniel Poinsola for $50, Carol Bush for $50, Edith McCrosky for $25, Ralph Lawson III for $50, Mayberry Associates for $150, Bunch Green for $37.50, Joseph Esposito for $150, Angela Russo for $100, and David DeCiccio for $250.
Councilwoman Hosky has brought forward Communication F from Police Chief Joseph Perno in regards to animal shelter donations. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Cohen. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion carries.
To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, Finance, to whom was referred the matter of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $6,747,695 bonds plus additional financing costs of the city to meet certain 2021-2022 capital budget appropriations and pending the issuance thereof the making of the temporary borrowing for such purpose. Reports of the committee met on the 23rd day of August 2021 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. First reading, the bond ordinance provides for the following: approves capital project bonds in the maximum amount of $6,747,695 plus cost of issuance to finance certain capital projects approved in the 2021-2022 capital budgets of the city in accordance with the requirements of Chapter 109 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Authorizes the mayor, the finance director, and the treasurer of the bond committee to sell the capital bond projects in competitive and negotiated offering. Authorizes bonds to be issued pursuant to the terms of the city trust indenture. Authorizes bond committee to issue bond anticipation notes for the short term financing prior to the issuance of the bonds. Authorizes the bonds committee to take all necessary actions in connection with the capital bond project bonds, including actions relating to the tax exempt nature of the bonds, the reimbursement of prior city capital expenditures, and those needed to satisfy post-issuance disclosure obligations. Authorizes the mayor, the finance director, and other duly authorized city officials to apply for grants for the capital projects. Public hearing date 6:55 p.m. on September 13th, 2021.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Again, public hearing for this is September 13th at 6:55 p.m. All set?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Next up is the Public Lands Committee, Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Public Lands, to whom was referred the matter of the sale of Thompson School. Reports that the committee met on the 23rd day of August 2021 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the mayor has authority to apply for a zoning designation for the property known as Thompson School, also known as 70 Hall Street, 179 Richard Street, and 165 Richard Street, and totaling 2.3 acres and 56,000 square feet of building space for up to 50 units of residential housing and some commercial storage space for a local glass company, which is Anderson Glass. The mayor shall also be empowered to, one, provide the mayor with authority to apply for and accept state remediation funds or grants for remediation of the building and property known as Thompson School. Two, sell the building for a price that must exceed $200,000, but subject to negotiation by the mayor and the Corporation Council office, and with authority to negotiate a higher price. Three, the mayor is limited to negotiating and entering into contract to sell the property known as Thompson School to the following development groups: A, Park Lane Group LLC, B, Alpha Investments Principal Tyler Smith, and C, Enclave Communities. 4, the city council authority for this transaction is revoked if zone approvals are not obtained within the next 120 days, and title to the property must occur within the next 300 days.
Councilman Donovan's brought forward communication G from Corporation Council in regards to the sale of Thompson School. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion? Councilman Massaro?
I miss it. When I said $200,000 in that resolution, does it say No, less than 200,000,
No
right?
less than 200,000.
Okay, all right, that's,
It
thank
says
you.
must exceed 200,000.
I didn't hear that, okay.
Are you
I'm
putting a
good.
bid in, Councilman, is that why? Is there any other discussion? The only thing that I would want to make clear, and maybe I would like to make amendment to this, is that this must come back to the council for final approval for the contract for the sale amount. Again, my position is this council doesn't decide what the actual end product is at the school. I recognize that these developers want to put some type of market rate housing in. At the end of the day, if a hydroponics place wants to go in there, a commercial place, or whatever it may be, I think that's the option to do that. I think it needs to go through the zoning process, and I think it especially needs to go through public comment, neighborhood comment, and Councilman Galignano is not here tonight, which it's his district. So at the end of the day, Lee, I'm comfortable with the resolution the way it is. I'm not looking to change it. I'm just saying it's got to run its course through zoning, through public comment, through neighborhood comment, and then I'd like it to come back. It needs to come back to us for final approval on the sale price.
Right, so depending on what zoning does it, we may have to come back. But if we don't, what you are doing, we're not expanding the field of developers, at least in the short term.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. I'm saying if these three developers had a different concept.
Yeah. So hopefully, with any luck, we come back with a contract that say, approve this. Here's your developer and here's the deal. And the zoning's approved, remediation's in place.
Yeah, I think the council would feel good about having it come back to us for final approval. All right? Is there any other discussion? Oh, yeah, I probably should amend that. Okay, so I'd like to make that amendment that this contract comes back to the council for final approval. Second. Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right, now we'll go back to the original. Motion to approve communication G as amended.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously.
The Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. Your Committee on Public Lands, to whom was referred the matter of the sale of portion of Front Avenue parcel number 060-0206-0-0000. Reports that the committee met on the 23rd day of August 2021 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the City Council approves authority of the mayor to enter into a binding agreement to sell the land further described in attachment A, incorporated by reference to this resolution, for a price of at least $25,000 to Jason Cameron and Joe Giaquinto, or any entity created by them, as owners of 19 Atwood Place, West Haven, Connecticut, owners of adjoining property. Said sale to take place no later than the next 60 days of the approval of this resolution.
Councilman Donovan has brought forward communication H from Corporation Counsel in regards to the sale of a portion of Front Avenue parcel 0600206-0000. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilwoman McGee. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. And just for the record, if like I say that you second it and you didn't, let me know, because it's very hard to tell with these masks on. I'm doing the best I could by hearing.
We have a communication G from July 26, 2021. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. Your Committee on Public Lands, to whom was referred the matter of an 824 referral of the abandonment of a city street, which is a portion of Goodhue Street and municipal improvements to 28 College Street. Reports that the committee met on the 23rd day of August 2021 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven, in concurrence with the Planning and Zoning Commission, hereby approve the attached 8-24 referral of the abandonment of a city street, a portion of Goodhue Street and municipal improvements to College Street.
Councilman Donovan's brought forward communication G from our 7/26/21 agenda from Christopher Soto in regards to the section 824 referral of the abandonment of a city street, a portion of Goodhue Street, and municipal improvements to 28 College Street. Is there a second? Second, Councilwoman Hosky. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'm all set for public comment.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Next up is the Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Councilman Massaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Personnel and Civil Service, to whom we refer to the matter of a reappointment of T. Gregory Malloy, Jr. to the South Central Community Regional Water Board. The report of this committee met on the 23rd day of August of 2021 to consider said matter. It was unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the reappointment of T. Gregory Malloy, Jr. of 189 Highland Avenue, West Haven, to the South Central Community Regional Water Board, effective immediately and to expire on June 30th of 2024. Been approved.
Councilman Massaro has brought forward communication A from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the reappointment of T. Gregory Malloy, Jr. to the South Community Regional Water District Board. Is there a second? Second, Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Civil Service, Personnel and Civil Service, to whom it may refer the matter, and appointment of Chrissy Collins of West Haven Energy Commission. The report of the committee met on the 23rd day of August 2021 to consider said matter. It was unanimous opinion on the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the appointment of Chrissy Collins of 209 Court Street, West Haven, to the West Haven Energy Commission, effective immediately and to expire February 25th, 2022, to be approved.
Councilman Massaro has brought forward communication B from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the appointment of Christy Collins to the West Haven Energy Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Cohen. Councilwoman Hamilton, is there any discussion? Councilman Cohen.
Yes, I talked to Ms. Collins last night, and I was just so impressed by her credentials and also just her no pun intended, her energy. And, she is so enthusiastic to be coming back into the city after being away for a while and moving back. And she really is going to make a big difference. I just feel it in my bones. She's just so qualified with her background and just her intelligence. I wish her well, and I thank her for her service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously.
To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Personnel and Civil Service, to whom was referred the matter of an appointment of Raymond Collins IV of West Haven to the West Haven Energy Commission. The report of the committee met on the 23rd day of August 2021 to consider said matter. It was unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the appointment of Raymond Collins IV of 209 Court Street, West Haven, to this West Haven Energy Commission, effective immediately and to expire on February 25th, 2023, to be approved.
Councilman Massaro has brought forward communication C from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the appointment of Raymond Collins IV to the West Haven Energy Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Take your pick, stay. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Cohen.
Well, after I got off the phone with Christie said to me, do you want to talk to my husband? I said, why do I want to talk to your husband? I'm talking to you. And I look at then I realized it was a late night, but I said, oh, they're husband and wife. So I talked to Ray, and he's just, the family's legacy of service to the city is truly known, between his father and his grandfather. And again, them coming back into the town, it was just a great thing that they're coming together and they're contributing right away. As he said, diving right into it, excited about it, and I wish him well, and I thank him also for being on the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And the motion passes unanimously.
That's it for civil service.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro.
Roger.
Next committee is the Health, Welfare, and Safety Committee, Councilman Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication I to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. Your Committee on Health, Welfare, and Safety is one of refer the matter of West Haven Police Department, JAG grant. Report that the committee met on the 23rd day of August 2021. Consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved. City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the application for the JAG grant and authorize the police department and the grant administrator to apply for and receive said grant.
Councilman Bruno has brought forward communication I from grant writer Doug Coulter in regards to the West Haven Police Department JAG grant. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Cohen. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. All set, Councilman Bruno?
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Adoption of ordinances previously presented. There are none. Is there any council liaison reports? Seeing none. Is there any new business? Seeing none. Oh, Councilwoman McGee.
Just want to say on the record, happy birthday to Councilman Peter Massaro. He's a legend in the community, and that's pretty much all I gotta say.
Thank you for that, Councilwoman McGee. Is there any other new business? If not, motion to adjourn?
No move.
Second?
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.